What's going on YouTube, it's GadgetsBoy and welcome to another video. And as usual, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe and also hit that bell button so you'd be one of the first people to know every time we upload a video on this channel. So LG has just announced the new G7 ThinQ, and since I have the Huawei P20 Pro as well, I thought why not compare them to you guys, let you guys have a look, see what they're about. This is by no means a scientific comparison, but a couple of things that are worth showing you guys should you be looking to buy either of them. So first up, when it comes to the design, they're very similar in some ways. It's just a matter of preferences actually, whether you'll prefer the other one over the other, what you like in terms of looks and maybe colors as well. They're very similar in size, both 6.1 inch, with the G7 weighing just a tad bit more. That's barely noticeable as well. The G7 has a fingerprint sensor on the back with a dual lens setup, one standard and the other one is for wide angle shots. The P20 Pro on the other hand has a triple lens Leica camera setup with its fingerprint sensor located and integrated with the home screen on the front. The P20 Pro's Leica camera setup is a 40 megapixel, a 20 megapixel black and white one, and another 8 megapixel camera lens there as well. Whereas when we have the LGs, you have two 16 megapixel camera, one at f1.6 and the other at f1.9. The front facing camera is also bigger on the P20 Pro at 24 megapixel versus the G7's 8 megapixel. The camera on the G7 sits flush on the back if you look at it, while the P20 Pros just protrudes on the back just a little bit. So when you place it on a flat surface, you will notice that in that area. This is also known as the camera bump for orders, you guys, you know this. Both devices offer USB Type-C, however, the G7 retains its 3.5mm headphone ports, which is really good and supports quad DAC there and 7.1 surround support when you've got your earphones plugged in. On the front, at first glance, they look very similar with a notch, but things become clearer when you notice the home button on the P20 Pro, and the notch on the G7 is slightly longer as well when you look at it. With an LCD display on the G7, you're able to get this 1000 nits of brightness, which is really super bright and is noticeable when cranked up to the highest level in comparison to the P20 Pro's vibrant AMOLED display. The G7 is also dishing out 564 ppi compared to the P20 Pro's 408 ppi density, so you might get a bit more sharpness in the G7's display. But again, is this something that you notice? I'm not sure. I'm still kind of looking at them and thinking maybe not. But when you start comparing brightness level, colors, the blacks in the display, you start to notice the difference. And viewing angles as well, I believe, looks slightly different when you start looking at them from the side and so on. So in some areas, I prefer the G7 in terms of how white the whites are and how black the blacks are. But when I compare to the P20 Pros in some area, I'm also thinking actually I prefer this. So that's again something that will have to come down to preference for anyone looking to get either of those. Of course, software and UI are different as well. They also run on different processor chips. The Huawei one is running a Kirin processor, while the G7 is loaded with a Snapdragon 845 processor. And for durability, the G7 is IP68 versus the P20 Pro's IP67. You can expand the G7's memory using a microSD card, whereas you can't on the P20 Pro. With a new notch design on both smartphones, they both offer the option to switch them off or block it. However, on the G7, you can go a bit further. You can change the colors and the shape as well. And battery-wise, the P20 Pro, in my opinion, is still the best on the market right now at 4,000 mAh battery. And using AI functions and so on, you can sort of last longer than normal compared to other smartphones. But that's hard to say and coming to conclusion of until we test the G7 as well. Something I also like on both smartphones is the use of AI. Although the P20 Pro has more when it comes to AI, especially in the camera area, is able to spot more. The G7 can only do 19 scenarios. So again, maybe there's something that will get improved over time using software. We don't know. But anyway, guys, this is just a rough comparison with the small amount of time I had with the G7 and the I've got P20 Pro for my daily driver right now, but the G7, when I get it in for a full review, I'll be able to do more comparisons. But in the meantime, do let me know what you want compared in the comments below, and more information will be in the description area. In the meantime, I'm Tommy, you're watching GadgetsBoy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.